Zymus. Breathe. Instant calming down. Crushing and sniffing. I had forgotten this amazing mint that I got at the little bodega around the corner. So crush and sniff. Mint is a little bit of a stimulant, but you can still crush and sniff that. And then I have old time and new time. So many puns, so little. I could hear you say it. Okay, that's old time. New time definitely has more pungent, more punch to the pinch, more punch to the pinch. Okay, that's good. But today we are going to talk about trees. We're going to be talking about trees because it is the week-long Urban Tree Festival. Pretty much the germ, the seed, the whatever metaphor you want to use for everything that we've been doing this last year, although we didn't officially start doing this until Midsummer's Day with a little preview. But anyway, but Hannah and I met on this Urban Tree Festival at the after Zoom party, as you do now. And so a couple weeks ago, we did Hawthorne, which is the special that she did for the Urban Tree Festival last year. And Hawthorne, of course, is huge in Shakespeare. And Urban Tree Festival, go to their website, they're all over social media, Twitter, and here on Instagram. They have a very, very full roster. But what I explained, we posted our little opening tree dance. And just one other thing I want to say about that. The reason I got involved in this, besides the fact that they invited me to be involved in it, was also that Shakespeare has over 30 trees, and there is a long tradition of poets and trees, which I'm researching now, and I will get into more as we go. And if anybody out there happens to know more about this, I was on a seminar where somebody mentioned it in a comment, and then I can't find them again. We've been trying to track them down like Sherlock Holmes. Where are they? Anyway, so, but there is a long tradition of the poetic connection of nature in general, but trees specifically. Chaucer lists a big, long chunk of them, and Spenser, and Virgil, and Seneca, Ovid, definitely. So it's a fascinating connection, and of course Shakespeare does it differently. But anyway, so we'll be looking at that and talking about that. Today is Love a Tree Day. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, I have to send that to the Urban Tree Festival because I think it's an American thing. But anyway, it was on my little notifications today. But we will bring on Hannah. Hello, Hannah. Hello. You know, I do these Wisdom of the Trees oracle cards right after Shakespeare Therapy Herbal Healing, and they often have medicinal bark information at the end of them, which is sort of fascinating. And today Hannah's going to be talking to us about tree bark healing. We were a little hesitant about this because of the Urban Tree Festival. We don't want anybody going in and peeling bark, going outside and peeling bark off of the urban tree. No. But we will talk about responsible barking. Responsible barking. Maybe that's the title of this show. Responsible barking. Okay, Hannah, take it away.
So thank you for mentioning that, because that is really, really important. So if anyone is interested in medicinal barks, my tip is to basically not forage for it at all. To find a responsible, basically to find a responsible seller. And if you look at most of the,
I don't think I've ever run across a bark seller.
Well, I mean, actually, most places that sell dried herbs, dried medicinal plants, are likely to also sell dried barks of the ones that are medicinal, and also, safe to use, because not all of them are. So that's kind of like my sort of tip really is just, leave it to people who kind of do it professionally, because they're the people who know exactly, basically you're not going to damage a tree that way, and you're going to make sure that you're going to get a good extract, and also importantly the right tree as well.
Yes. Do not want the wrong tree. Some trees are poisonous.
So I've got 4 barks for you.
4 barks. So you want a responsible barker, right? First of all. Okay. I'm going to go look for one this week. All right.
So, and I have to admit that I am not prepared at all with my Shakespeare book either this week, so I've not cross-referenced any of these in the book.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. This is what I always say. Shakespeare is a gateway drug, you know, and it's the same for the trees. There's over 30 trees in Shakespeare, but now I find myself, you know, ginkgo isn't there, but I recognize ginkgo because of the leaves, and, you know, my goal is to be able to walk through a park and identify every tree.
That would be amazing. I wish I could do that. So, one of the first ones, probably the most obvious one to talk about, is willow bark.
Very famously, Desdemona's song, her sad song, when she realizes her husband is acting weird and about to kill her. Spoiler alert. Go ahead. Cheerful. Let's figure out what willow bark does.
So willow bark, so we're talking, there's lots of different types of willow. So the one that's mainly used medicinally is the Salix alba, which is the white willow. And really it shares a lot of the same properties as aspirin, because willow contains salicin, and it's the salicylates that kind of formed the basis for aspirin as we know it today. It shares a lot of the same characteristics as aspirin, in the fact it's analgesic, so it's pain killing, and it's a really, really good anti-inflammatory. But unlike aspirin, it doesn't have that kind of stomach damaging action that aspirin does. But it is, as an analgesic and anti-inflammatory, great. I use it a lot.
Okay, so how do you use it? Do you put the bark in boiling water, or what do you actually do with the bark? No,
I actually use a tincture.
Just swallow.
I use a pre-prepared medicinal tincture because it gets a higher concentration out. So many places sell medicinal tinctures individually around the world. So with white willow bark, it's one you need to check whether it's going to be safe for you, but it's one that in tincture form, in professional made tincture form, it's good.
Okay, so people who have trouble with aspirin because of stomach issues, and there's a lot of that, more than people think. Oh, you know what? People also take aspirin to people take it as a preventative measure. I think my grandmother was doing this for heart attacks, to not have. Does white willow bark do the same?
Not really. No, that's something that you would need to take aspirin. You know, I mean, obviously aspirin is prescribed as well as over the counter. It certainly is over here anyway. Yeah. But no, it doesn't. We don't really use it for that property medicine. It's mainly for its analgesic and its anti-inflammatory use. So sort of joint stuff, basically, quite commonly.
Okay. Great. Okay. Next bark.
Rough. I'll mention again. I'm not sure if this is in Shakespeare. Wild cherry bark.
Sure, cherries in Shakespeare.
Great. So wild cherry. So Prunus serratina. So Prunus serratina is a really good, what's called an antitussive. So it stops you coughing. So what it does is, you know, sometimes people have a really, really dry cough that's not productive, and it's just kind of, it doesn't serve a purpose. So what it does is it helps to take down that, take down that cough reflex. And so, you know, in terms of, so people don't get in a habit of coughing without the need to cough. It's not one that's really used as kind of, you know, if you've got a lot of phlegm that you need to get off your chest, that's not a great time to use it, because it would actually stop you coughing it up. But dry and productive coughs, wild cherry bark, fabulous.
Okay, and that's why they put cherry, like so many cough syrups with flavored cherry. Yeah.
Probably,
Okay. What is
yeah.
that icky flavor of cherry? Okay, I don't want to fail with my teeth. Anyway, okay, next tree, next bark.
Bark number 3. Well, aptly named Cramp Bark.
Okay, that is definitely not in Shakespeare.
But it might be under another name. So is the Gelder Rose in there?
Not specifically, but there's so many generic roses. We're just going to say yes. Okay.
So the Gelder Rose, so it's Viburnum opulus. There is another one which is Viburnum prunifolium, which is kind of similar, but I'll sort of mention Viburnum opulus. So it's called Cramp Bark, and it's as a certain advert would, 1980s advert would say over here, it kind of does what it says on the tin. So it's an antispasmodic. It stops spasm, so it stops cramping. So for that really kind of crampy pain that you get with period pain, or for sort of spasmodic muscle pain, it just kind of helps to release that sort of smooth muscle tension, really.
Okay, well, I'll just say cramps are in Shakespeare, and those are, I'll rack thee with old cramps. Oh, he has the cramp. And I am not Stefano, but a cramp. So there's more, but I will read out every line with a cramp. But anyway, so they need cramp bark to heal them, Okay, take this a little further, but that's, so yeah, so often they say magnesium helps with leg cramps, sleeping cramps, and things like that. Would this help with that too? Okay.
This is more for so magnesium works in a slightly different way, but with this is like for real. I mean, when you get period cramps, it's like it hurts. So that real strong cramping, it just helps to release that. So it's where I would most often use it in sort of herbal mixes for people with painful periods, really.
And is this a tree?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't obviously
tree, sort of big bush.
Shrub. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And number 4 isn't a tree, but I wanted to include it because it is an amazing bark. It's Barberry. Okay.
So
Shakespeare. Okay.
It shares some sort of common traits with the Oregon grape, which is Mahonia aquifolium. So this is Berberis vulgaris or Barberry, and it's all to do with the liver, and it's what we call a cholagogue, which is a really unusual herbal name. And basically cholagogues get the bile moving, and they stimulate the liver and they stimulate the bile, and they will often be used for people who may be prone to potentially in future getting gallstones, or for sluggish digestion. So it's a kind of a very sort of yellowy preparation, and for most of the yellowy preparations that are medicinal, they have an action on the bile and stimulate bile, and that's what it does very well.
So when you say they are future getting gallstones, I mean, how do you know that you might be a candidate for future gallstones? I know, I've had 2 friends who had their gallbladder removed because they didn't know how to take care of that.
I mean, with the gallbladder, I mean, it's often it's to do, sometimes it can be genetic, but often it's to do with how your digestion is working. If you have a very sluggish digestion and you're eating a lot of fatty, a lot of processed foods, a lot of alcohol, it's that kind of thing can predispose you to gallstones, but not necessarily. But usually when you're talking to someone and you can kind of get an inkling and think, if they're getting like a little bit of pain in the right area, you think, okay, little bit of Barberry might be good.
Okay, so Barberry isn't necessarily in Shakespeare, although berries are mentioned. The specific berries are blackberry, bilberry, dewberry, mulberry, strawberry. So there are a lot of berries. But Barberry, not so much. But weirdly, going back to our Willow at the begining, she talked about a Barberry she talks about Barberry in that song. She means Barbara. But you know what? Again, Shakespeare is so layered, and editors over the years have made decisions about what she's talking about based on their own knowledge, which is kind of like this. Is can't even see my arms, it's so wide. So there's always more room to explore, and that's why we do this. So Hannah, do you want to talk a little bit about what your Urban Tree Festival specific segment is about? It's next Saturday.
So this year I'm doing Tilia, which is the lime flower, or the lime tree, I should say. So I've called it the tranquility of Tilia because it's exactly what it does, and it's going to be my little ode really to the medicinal use, sort of historical and present, of lime.
Fantastic. So that is in The Tempest, and a couple of other sort of random hazy mentions. But yeah, so everybody tune into that. We do have her Hazel talk up on our link tree, as well as the Urban Tree Festival. I didn't say the line of the week, but I did tell you last week that it was going to be for the whole month. And the part to remember is tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. And this is what I said a little bit last week about how he doesn't mush together the word everything. Everything has good in it. And we will hopefully, avail yourself of all the stuff that's going on. It's a very full schedule for the Urban Tree Festival. Have you gone to anything yet, Hannah?
Not yet. I've signed up for some of the meditations in the morning, but then I've got to look through the rest of the program because it's been a super busy week. So yeah,
it's also a very full program. And I signed up for something yesterday, which was 7:30 in the morning. Did not make it. Not a surprise. And so that's why we're extending this to the end of the day on the East Coast and sort of early evening for the West Coast, just to extend the Urban Tree Festival through the time zones. So I will leave you with a little time, and I'll be right back with the cards. Thank you, Hannah. Good luck with the Tilia. We'll be watching, and see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.